Welcome to the Build with Boundaries podcast. My name is Manaz, and this podcast is for mums who want to carve out time so that you can work in ways that work for you, your life, your family, and of course your business. Together, we will discover why you are not prioritizing your business and the actions that you can take so you can live an intentional, productive, and fulfilled life without mum guilt. So let's dive in to today's episode. Welcome everyone. I'm so excited to have Dani Whitestone with me. Now, Dani is a small business mentor on a mission to help women entrepreneurs be less stressed and make more money by teaching systems proven to promote growth, clarity, and reduce overwhelm. She's also the co-founder of TurboLaw Software, an author and a mom to an amazing son and a lover of comfy pants. I love that. Welcome, Dani. Thank you for being here.
Welcome, Manaz. Thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome. Right, I can't wait to get into this topic. So we've chosen what I learned about work-life balance by doing everything wrong. So that made me laugh, but we are going to give you so much value here. So let us first begin by just introducing yourself, Dani, and tell us how you help your clients and why you're doing what you're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. I have been an entrepreneur for many, many years now I'm really grateful that I have been taking companies, bootstrapped a company and taking it all the way through acquisition. So in terms of having an understanding of a lot of different stages of business, I'm grateful to be now being a business mentor and being able to give back and guide and coach like my business mentors have done for me over the years. And in terms of my clients, one of the especially for clients in scale, which I call a second startup, is basically having to learn things all over again and put it in kind of along those lines. What we're going to talk about with boundaries here, with what your expertise is putting in systems to control what's going on so that they can spend time with their families and they can spend time doing other things like sleeping and eating properly and knowing that their business is in good hands because of the structures and systems they put in place. So that's one of the ways I help my clients in terms of if they find that their business is taking over, we talk, we see what is going on, how can we control all of this chaos and get them to a nice steady path of controlled growth.
That's amazing, Dani. And it's so true that you said it was like a second startup phase. I mean, that's true. It probably gets into that overwhelm and feeling that you have at the beginning where you're learning all these things and it's just a different challenge at a different time, but it is quite pivotal for people. So really important again to take that step back and make sure that you're looking after yourself and being able to have the right boundaries that do that. So what kind of skills do you bring to this then from your own experience and what you've done that helps people to see what it is that they need to do in terms of looking after themselves?
In terms of the topic at hand, in terms of like what I learned about work life by doing everything wrong, I know what happens. I know from my personal experience, what happens when you don't put yourself first, especially your health. It really hit and it completely devastated me and completely. I got so sick. I was really just kind of knocked out of the game of life for a while. It was really scary. And it wouldn't have happened if I had more knowledge, awareness of not really knowing that, like, no, I'm not Superman. I'm a human being. I can't just keep adding, especially when, someone hands you, hi, you now have an infant and you're holding this infant, yet I'm still thinking that I can do everything. And one of the ways, we can talk a little bit more about that, but one of the ways I built myself back up from that since I was so sick was through just holistic nutrition. So I went and got a certification as a holistic nutritionist to understand and support entrepreneurs. Like they might be, focused on business growth, but I'm glad I have the experience and now the certification and knowledge to be able to be a small support along that path too, because the brain is really expensive to run. One of my mantras is you are your most important business asset, but business owners don't think like this often. It's like it's always, no matter what stage you're in, it's always feel like you're reacting, you're doing this, you're doing that, but actually taking a moment and thinking, no, I am my most important business asset. That means I need to eat to fuel my brain. I need to eat to fuel my energy, and make that a priority. I use the analogy of athletes in terms of, so you have an athlete. I'm blessed to know some Olympic athletes, and when they have a big event coming up, you know what they don't do, Manaz? They don't like, oh, I'm working on this big project. I'm at this big event coming up. I am going to only sleep 4 hours a night. I am going to eat Doritos and Diet Coke for lunch, and grab something later. And I'm just going to treat myself completely like crud and still expect peak performance. That's crazy. Yeah, I think it's the mindset of so many entrepreneurs.
You're right. I think we get so busy, and I think it takes over the basic instincts of just what's right. And, maybe just by crushing that time and having this pressure because of the time. But I love how you explained that. I mean, I think with your example with the athlete, what came to me was that, we have expectations of ourselves, but we know what we want in terms of output, but we have to consider what the inputs are as well. And that for us is all the nutrition and all the sleep and the care that we can give ourselves. So tell me what went wrong then for yourself. You've obviously been through this cycle, and what was that like? Tell me more.
I've been through it twice. I wish I hadn't been, but the first time was, it's almost like I didn't it's like my body just kind of stopped being able to absorb nutrients. I was under an incredible amount of stress, incredible amount of pressure. We were trying to grow my software company in the recession. I had just had an infant, and I didn't put in place the structures around me to give myself the support that I needed, the rest that I needed. So in terms of how ill I got at that point in time, and because I was having some absorption challenges, in addition to not knowing how to fuel my body for those kinds of demands, I ended up with a severe magnesium deficiency. And you can't, no matter how smart you are, you can't outthink nutrient deficiencies, because especially magnesium, which is a nutrient that is missing, and that is low in a lot of people these days. It's a nutrient that literally like makes your nervous system work. So if you don't have this building block in you to help you think, to help your muscles work, you're going to run into some humongous problems, and you're not going to know why, because of course with a lot of nutrient deficiencies and illness, of course confusion comes with that too. But I just kept questing. One of the most bizarre symptoms I had was everything was excruciatingly loud. And I'm sensitive to sound anyway, but so that was actually the key, because I would just Google. I'm like, what is wrong with me? I'm not getting the right answers. None of my doctors are taking me seriously. Like, I know something is really wrong here. And I was down to about 90 pounds and losing 10 pounds a month. And when you're 90 pounds, there's only so many more months that can happen. And I was eating. But of course, touching back in terms of like I used to, in terms of food, what I was eating, but now I understand that a lot of the packaged food, a lot of the cereals, that kind of thing, it's not really food. The marketing is good, so we think it's food, but you look at all, the processed ingredients and things that aren't fueling your body for what it needs. So thankfully, Dr. Google, which is, with a grain of salt on the Google search, I happened to hit an article that said excruciatingly loud, like magnesium deficiency. And I went to and I got a magnesium supplement, and it was absolutely a life changing. You think that going to the market and getting a nutrient supplement would be life changing, and it was just the most incredible experience as I started to build myself back from health. And then that's where I got connected to a naturopath, and it's something I recommend as part of an entrepreneur in your care team, to have a complement of people around you. But in terms of and I don't know what they're called. It's called naturopath over here, and but I'm
Yeah.
not sure what it might be called over there. But someone who
Um,
does look at you. You use the word holistic a lot. Look at you holistically, and
yeah.
making sure that you, for what you're trying to accomplish, you're getting those building blocks, the nutrients, the foundation that you
Yeah.
need to thrive as a human being. Because I don't know, Manaz, it's like I talk to people all the time. They just think it'll happen. They'll just like live and be healthy without like the nutrients they need to fuel themselves. It's so I'm excited to have this conversation today.
Exactly. It's something that we really do need to talk about more and share, because we only realize when we get ill. And this is the problem,
Yeah.
that, that is something that has been happening for quite some time, when our bodies are probably craving the things that they don't have enough of, i.e. deficiencies. And it's not something that is generally checked here regularly. Nobody pays any attention to it. Nobody looks at it, tests it, or it doesn't really, it's not a normal thing to do, which is a shame. We need to normalize it and say,
Yes.
well, is our body healthy, and how are we going to say it's healthy? Because we have no pain, or is it because our all the main building blocks and minerals and vitamins that are in us, they're at the right levels? And I think that's great. So what advice would you give then, if someone was struggling with this and they're kind of just not sure what they need to do? Because you've been there with that kind of state of confusion, not really knowing. Now you know, and you obviously did a lot of research, which I'm sure
Yeah.
Google helped massively, but it's not ideal to do that and go through the pain of, like, sometimes the worry is really stressful as well, isn't it?
It is. I can say this as a practical thing. If you've been struggling with something and you're not quite sure what it is, to connect with it. Connect with one of those naturopathic doctors, because even the intakes that they do, they ask you a whole bunch of questions. And as you go through, it's amazing what becomes normalized in our bodies, but isn't normal in terms of like, oh, I didn't realize it's I'm not supposed to be waking up 4 times a night or something like that. Kind of the things that you just take for granted. So this is a practical first step. I would say definitely connect, because even just the intake and connecting with that doctor as part of your care team will help move things along and uncover things you didn't even realize were a problem. Things, simple things like not really simple, but like mold exposure that can do terrible things to the human body, terrible things to your energy level and your cognitive abilities. But it's something that we don't really, but we don't give enough, I think, give enough weight in terms of those kinds of things. So that's one practical thing I could definitely suggest. And also just take it, start small and build on success. If you're trying to kind of as an entrepreneur, get yourself regulated, start small. Start with, okay, how much water am I getting?
Yeah.
And basic fun thing, and set yourself a goal of, to increase this in at certain day, or do small things in terms of, instead of, if you crave something sweet in the afternoon, instead of um, a maybe a processed treat of some kind, maybe you give it a shot and you try some dates, or some dates with peanut butter or something like that. Just like little swaps.
Yeah.
Don't say I'm gonna give up everything, because like how like well not seriously, like how rarely does that work?
Yeah.
I'm gonna cut all sweets out completely. Like that's just, I don't think it's just practical. So
That's some
as an
realistic
entrepreneur,
expectations, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, exactly. Just try little swaps. I know we had spoken about like kind of in terms of boundaries of, okay, like what to do, but you have to do it. So how do we do that? Just pick one thing and do one simple swap, because it's those little tweaks and those little changes in life that that lead to great outcome, that over time lead to those great outcomes, like like that feeling of better health and
Totally. They're so
yeah.
much more sustainable, aren't they? Because they are small things, so we don't need to make such a big fuss about doing it or
Yep.
changing something into that. That's great advice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dani.
You're
So
welcome.
you were talking about like when you're building your business and this is what was happening, and you were obviously working through all of that. But
Mhm.
what do you think? What could you share for everybody who's running a business and being a mom and doing all the things? Your boundaries look very different for everybody, even though they might have on the outside they look like they're a mom and they have the same sort of things going on. So what advice would you give in terms of, say, tips for things that have helped you to build your business with boundaries?
Proper nutrition and sleep, number one. Those basic human foundations, because boundaries take energy to uphold. If we're feeling depleted, it's just like, okay, sure, whatever. So I would say that would be number one,
Yeah.
proper sleep and nutrition, so that we can actually hold the boundaries that we want to hold. number two, number two is delegating. And I know a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people go into business because maybe we're a bit of control freak. We want to do it ourselves. We want it done our way. So delegating, and I use the mantra, I don't need to do it. I just have to make sure that it gets done. So it might not, even if it's, I think what they say, like if someone can do it 80% as good as you, just let them do it. So number one, proper nutrition and sleep. Number two, delegating things that you really don't have to be doing. And three, leveraging technology. There are so many tools now to increase your productivity with technology. And also, this is kind of funny, but there's technology to shut out technology. You can turn, if you end up scrolling the internet late at night, great. Have a timer, have it shut off.
Yeah.
You can pause if you get distracted by emails. Either you can silence it or you can pause your inbox. So find tools to leverage technology to shut off your technology.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, great tips there. Especially the technology is like, manage your technology.
With technology. Yep.
Sounds crazy,
Or
but
don't just go outside just go out go to the park, go to the woods.
yeah, absolutely. Well, that's amazing. I think those tips would be super, super helpful because, like you said before, sometimes it is those small things that we do. And if out of these tips there's anything that you think, well, actually, I could do that or it would be helpful, then, please go and try it because, you are worth it. And it is about investing that into yourself, that's saying, giving yourself priority, at the end of the day, that,
Yes.
you are important and you deserve this. And yes, of course, having the right kind of sleep. I love that, having the right sleep so that you can sustain the boundaries because, when we're tired, we give in. It's
It's
true.
very true. And one thing on a deeper on a bit of a deeper note, but something that's important to note because it affects a lot of people in terms of, if this is really hard for you. I'm not talking about just scheduling and block scheduling, but this is really hard for you in terms of the boundary things. Delve deeper into that and find the people, and maybe because there might be there might be patterns that have come with you to adulthood from childhood that are actually really preventing you from having success in this area. So
Yeah.
I always encourage folks, way beyond, this is not the idea, this is not the business mentor side, this is not the, business coaching side. This is go find a professional that can help you unpack some of that stuff, because it'll help you know yourself, which will make you a better person, and to everyone around you more productive, in terms of, we always think of that as business owners. And also to understand, because when I first kind of came into this conversation, I didn't really I could sort of cognitively understand what boundaries were, but I really didn't understand them. And it was just stuff that I wasn't really shown, mirrored that kind of thing when, and you know, in some ways I was, but not in others. And I didn't quite really inwardly grasp the concept here. So doing work there really helped me a lot too.
100%, completely. Yeah, that this is the thing, isn't it? I think when you were talking, what was happening, my thoughts that came to me were like, it's that whole idea of I can do this all on my own. And it's such a
Yes.
big one, isn't it? Whatever, like if you don't know the answer, like you don't need to struggle and spend years trying to work it out. There are experts in all areas that you need. And having that kind of permission, giving yourself that permission to say that that is acceptable and you can ask for help, because that again is a difficult one when you're a mum juggling and problem solving all day long. It's always like, well, mum knows. And it becomes this expectation, but we can take ourselves away from that, just sort of put a little pause in there to actually say, well, do I do this or do I get some help to do it?
Yes, and it's been incredibly helpful to me personally as a human being to navigate the world, but also on a business side, because if you understand yourself, you understand people, it just makes you a business, it just makes you a better business owner for interacting with clients, a better salesperson, a better marketer. So it's just a win-win-win all around.
Oh, thank you so much, Dani. This has been such a great topic for discussion. So would you like to share anything that you have for the audience, anybody who's listening? How can they find out more about you? And yeah, where can they go?
Absolutely. If they go to my website, which is www.daniwhitestone.com, it's DANIWHITESTONE.com. At the top, there is where you could do /resources. At the top, there's a resources tab. If you click on that, I have gathered a whole bunch of stuff for people that I feel would help them on their journey. There's a link to my book that's for a free e-version of my book. There's a link to a women's business group that I run, which is all about supporting and connection as we all grow together, and a whole bunch of hosts. So basically, you can go shopping on my resources page.
Sounds amazing. So please do go and check that out, daniwhitestone.com. I will pop the links in the podcast description and on YouTube as well in the description. So do have a look. And yeah, Dani has a free Facebook group as well. So do pop into her world there. I'm sure she will be delighted to have you. So thank you so much for
Absolutely.
being here, Dani, and thanks for this conversation.
It's been an absolute honor and always a pleasure to talk to you, Manaz. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.